All right, it was about 3 minutes before 5 o'clock yesterday where I started losing it. I started losing my cool at work. It had been a grueling day of non-stop work of, let's say, 20 different people. We're not talking one, we're not talking two. You're talking about a person who's stretched so thin, yet is told constantly about how pathetic his work performance is, how inadequate he is at his work, a person who hasn't received a raise in 3 years, a person who's constantly being tormented with being fired, a person who's told that he's worthless and useless at work, and on top of that, they call you lazy. So that vein on my forehead was pushing it. By the time I was getting ready to leave to go home, I was carrying a really heavy piece of equipment across the office grounds, and one of the office workers asked me how I was doing. I started freaking cursing out loud, and the customers around me all started laughing, and I was just like, "Oh Lord, I hope this doesn't make it onto the website because I just completely and totally lost it." I reached a breaking point yesterday with Evil Corp. The pay's too low, the work's too much, and the management is sadistic as hell. What are you supposed to do in that situation? You can't find a better job. You can't quit. You can't do anything to better your circumstances, and they are going to continue to push you to the brink. And so I finally got in my car and I had no more F's to give. I'd contacted server group, network group, support group, every group in the corporation that's supposed to be doing tech stuff. I'm not supposed to be cleaning up their messes. And yet there I was again with my janitor's hat, elbow deep in a toilet, trying to fix things that aren't part of my job. And the whole time thinking to myself, you know, I need to, I still am not doing enough. And you just get so frustrated because management keeps telling you how lazy you are. I've been told that I'm lazy so many times at this job and throughout my entire life. I've been told I'm bad with money. I've been told that I'm stupid, that I don't make good choices financially. And I'm just like, you pay me practically minimum wage and you expect for me to somehow own a home and drive a new car. And that's just not going to happen. So, with that said, let's get right into today's monologue. They call us lazy. Well, let's be real. What exactly were we supposed to do? Work harder at jobs that barely pay rent? Go to college, drown in debt, and still end up fighting for an entry level position that requires 5 years of experience? The truth is, we're not lazy. We're just the first generation to see the scam for what it is and refuse to play along. The whole system is a scam. From the moment you get to work in the morning to the second that you're leaving, the corporation gets to make record profits while you struggle to stay alive. Every day, the proletariat is in survival mode. And every day, the system tries to make more money off of your struggle. Every second that you're alive is a tax on being alive. The poverty tax isn't something that I made up. It's what we pay every single day on our credit cards, in the places where we live, and the jalopies that we drive that are just waiting to break down. Nothing about being poor is easy or fun or anything to look forward to. It's a lonely, solitary life that involves a lot of shaking hands with the governor and only thinking about the pink taco occasionally, remembering what it smells like or what it looks like, or the fact that you may never get to see it again. Why? Because proletariat women know they don't want losers. They want winners. They don't care if they have to wait. They don't care if they have to go into their 30s or 40s as loser women. They don't want prole men. Prole men smell. They suck. They're ugly. They don't have any money. And what's the number one thing women want? They need money. And so that puts you in a situation in which you can look at them, and that's, I think, what is the most fascinating part of my life is you I walk into the gym and you see all these pretty women there, and they might as well be mannequins at a mall. Because you can look at them, they may stare back at you with those empty, hollow eyes, but they don't want you. And you just kind of put your head down and it's like, what am I even doing on planet Earth if all I do is shake hands with the governor all day? You start to think that you'd be better off running into oncoming traffic. I think about it at least 10 times a day. What's in it for me? I'm burnt out from work. My wages are never going to go up. And I'm constantly being told that it's my fault. With that said, let's get into our talking points for today's video. The economy was never built for you to succeed. If you can understand that one concept, you'll understand why I'm ready to run into oncoming traffic. It was never designed for the slaves to become successful. It was always designed for the monopolies, for the corporations, for them to win. In fact, yesterday I was sitting in my office thinking about it, wondering if the corporate wars had already started. And by this I mean, if you work for Walmart and it decides to go into a corporate war with all the other retailers. As a joke, I asked ChatGPT this question, and it said something like, when you take a job with a retailer, that part of the job application is that you must serve no less than 5 years in the Walmart army if Walmart decides to launch a corporate war. So by default, as an employee, you become an employee soldier ready to fight in the corporate wars. And so I asked Gen Z yesterday, it's like, what do you think of this? And he's like, would you put on a corporate soldier uniform for what you're making right now, which is just above the minimum wage? And he laughed at me. It's like, there's no way that I would fight for this corporation. The corporate wars are going to have to be fought with something like Blackwater armies, private mercenary groups, because no one wants to do anything more than the bare minimum for these wages. They give us bare minimum wages, we give them bare minimum labor. They give us bare minimum housing, food, and transportation, and we just give them the eye roll when they expect anything more than the bare minimum. And corporations absolutely hate people who show up to work to do the bare minimum, or aren't engaged, or care, or even want to be there. They dislike us to the nth degree. And I know this for a fact. That's why they enjoy so much paying their workers not enough money to survive, keeping them part-time, with no benefits, no job security, and no hope for a decent future. And yet they wonder every day, it's like, I wish the workers would try a little harder so we could get richer. The harder they think that they can push you, the richer they get, and the worse off you are. Talking point number 2. No matter how hard you work, minimum wage will never outpace inflation. And I'm talking about a minimum wage that goes all the way up to around $50 an hour. That to me is still minimum wage. If you can't buy a house and a new car on your wage, you're still a minimum wage worker. If you're living in this roach-infested piece of crap apartment complex that I do, I mean, I literally had like 20 cockroaches in my kitchen right now when I woke up and went to get a glass of water. It's disgusting. They're huge too. They're the size. They're about as long as a quarter. And they're just sitting there, just eating whatever's left over in the pans, just sitting in the sink, sitting on the kitchen, just sitting there waiting like it's their house. And you're just like, I work so hard to live in this dump. I work so hard to eat the food that tastes like absolute garbage. My breakfast this morning consisted of rice and cheap ground chicken, and it tasted like pure grade A rear end. Nothing about eating feels good, just like sleeping here. Everything about living in this apartment feels like failure. In about half an hour, I'm going to be at Evil Corp. Nothing about Evil Corp feels good. It feels bad to sit there. It feels bad to be exploited. It feels bad to run an entire department for minimum wage. To be stressed out of your mind trying to fix this and that and go to this meeting and then come back and they need you over here, over there. I'm driving across town. The executives need help. Everyone needs help. And you're just like, why me? Out of all of this crap that's going on right now, why is it always me? Why is it always one guy? And you think about it. Why would they pay 10 people to run the office when they can get one idiot working minimum wage to do all this work? And then the other people, the staff, look at you like you're stupid. Because for some reason you have that look on your face that says, I'm really, really agitated about working here. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I can't walk down the street and find another job that pays this much money. In fact, I could spend the next 5 years, 10 years. I spent my whole life looking for a job that pays this much money, only to end up realizing that it wasn't that much money. Minimum wage is minimum wage wherever you go, whether you're working at McDonald's or Taco Bell. It's the same thing. All you'll ever afford is the bare minimum. Talking point number 3. Billionaires profit from keeping you broke. High rent, low wages, expensive education keep wealth flowing only in one direction, upwards. Trickle down economics for poor people means that someone opens up their zipper up there at the top and you start getting a sense of warmth. Warm, yellow, salty rain, and you stick your tongue out to taste that rain. That's trickle down economics. It's salty. Ugh, tastes like asparagus. You know what it is. That's how wealth flows. They get rich, you get salty rain. And they tell you to be content. I don't know how many times I've been called a malcontent for not accepting the system the way it is. That I need to pull myself up from my bootstraps and buy a home and get a nice car and get married. When the reality is those things don't exist for poor people anymore. And they haven't existed in a long time. Since the 1970s, minimum wage hasn't kept up with the cost of living. And it never will again. As they push harder and harder to have less and less full-time employees, they want to keep you struggling. The great thing about struggling people is they will accept conditions that only prisoners accept. Bars, a metal toilet, and a metal cot. That's what we accept as the proletariat. And we could either accept that, or we can go and just end it all by jumping in a ditch face first and just giving up. I find myself giving up a lot in my dreams, though. I often wake up, like last night I was dreaming that I was falling off of a pickup truck and down the freeway into a hole. I was just waiting for it to end. I was sitting there like pretty much dead, crushed into a ball. My eyes were closed and I was waiting to see what was going to happen next. And instead of going to blissful wherever we go once the proletariat bites it, I open my eyes and I'm in my bed again. And it's like, no, not this again. I have to start the daily grind because I have to eat today and I need money. And I thought to myself, you know what? Having to wake up every day is cruel. Having to go to work every day is cruel. Having to look in your wallet and see that there's nothing in your pocket is cruel. Nothing about being alive during our current time is worth it. Everything sucks. Everything stinks. And nothing will get better. Regardless. Think about it. How many times do you think you're going to be making $200,000 a year in your life as a regular, ordinary person with a liberal arts degree? Or maybe even less. Maybe you never graduated from high school. And you're forced to compete in the same job economy as people who are doing extremely well. People who are connected with money, that look down upon you for just being born. That's really what it comes down to. You were born with the mark of the L on your forehead from the second that Johnny Sixpack shot his special load into Susie Rottencrotch, and here you are. You are in the belly of Susie Rottencrotch. You guys ask me all the time, why do you put these ladies into your backgrounds and thumbnails? Because that's all of us inside there. All of us unwanted future slaves. None of us asked to be brought into this world to serve our entire lives just for something disgusting to eat, just to take two handfuls of dirt and toss them in your mouth and call it food. We're all in there inside of Susie's belly. And for some reason, Johnny Sixpack was too stupid to pull out. I think about this every day. It's like my own dad. It's like, why? You didn't have any money. You didn't have a house. You were too young. And yet here I am spending my entire life working for evil corporations so that they can get rich. Well, I have to sit here and pretend that I even care about being alive. Because I don't. I stopped caring about it a long time ago. Final talking point. The real power shift happens when people stop blaming themselves and start questioning the system. If there's one thing this channel does every single day, I force you to stop and look around and see what you have. What has work done for you other than postpone the inevitable for another 24 hours? Work isn't worth it. We can't afford to work, and nobody's ever wanted to work a single day in their entire lives. Unless you're becoming wealthy every day by going to work, you don't care. You don't care about Evil Corp. You don't care about your life. You don't care about anything. When it comes right down to it, all we care about are two things: eating and getting it on. That's it. I'd say getting it on is probably higher than eating. And at the end of the day, you eat trash and you don't get any. That makes people miserable. It gives people no thoughts of a future. As I've said many times before, I don't think about the future anymore. I don't think about my past because my past is too sad. I don't think about the weekend. The weekend has no meaning to me. Nothing has meaning to me. The weekends are just times in which you're working another job. For me, it's doing this all weekend. I spend 5+ hours every day, Saturday and Sunday, working on making more content so that I can not have to work during the week after work. Because last night when I got home, you better believe I was hot. And if I made a video last night, I probably would have gotten kicked off from all the vulgar language I would have used because I was pissed out of my mind. Because I was coming home to the roach infested hell that I call home. And I knew that I was going to have to get up and go back. And now I have 15 minutes to get ready to get to Evil Corp before they turn on the juice and the electric chair, and they just keep turning it on all day long. You just sit down, the executioner comes up, turns on the power, and you can smell your own nads cooking. Because that's all you're going to do. All you're going to do all day is suffer. It's what we're good at. If there's one thing the proletariat has learned to do well, and it's to suffer and not cry, well, you can smell your own boys cooking down there. But with that said, I think I'm going to stop the video here, because if you're not questioning the system, if you're not asking yourself if this is it, then I don't know what you're doing all day. Because it's time for the proletariat to question whether or not it wants to be chained to the wall with a car battery attached to your nads for the rest of your life. Because that is all this life offers. It's just the car battery in you. Every day for eternity. Because leisure is for the rich. Comfort is for the rich. Work and misery is for the proletariat. And unless you ask yourself, what are you going to do today to change this system? This system isn't going to stop extracting labor and exploiting you, because that's what it does. That's what it's really good at. That's what this system does, is it hurts people. And if you're tired of being hurt, it's time for you to take off those jumper cables from your NAS and say no more. Because until you do that, until you make that conscious decision to wake up and see the system, it's going to continue as it was meant to.